there's a million things that we can tell ourselves to say, it might not be the right time, or this might be the right, occasion, etc. And it's like, okay, that might be true, but if you believe and you want to pursue, an opportunity, go for it. Just go for it.
Beautiful.
Welcome to the Level Up Podcast. Our goal is that by listening to our podcast, you will be inspired to level up. With the help of some amazing guests, we'll be inspired by some inspirational success stories and find out how you can level up your business, your life, and your relationship with yourself. Because I know that by leveling up and balancing these three aspects of your life, you can make a difference and impact the lives around you. Level Up Podcast will be a series of interviews featuring successful professionals who are making a mark and a difference in their lives and others. They will share their incredible stories of how they did it, so you can be inspired and learn from the very best.
First of all, thank you, Cinthia, for taking the time today. I feel honored and I feel so happy to be with you today. I know we known each other for a couple of years, but knowing your story and knowing where you're coming from, it really, really got me to think that, you will be someone that I wanted to have on the podcast to share with our audience. Who is Cinthia? Where is she from? And just get to know you a little more. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being with me today. Just wanted to ask if you can please share a little bit about your story and tell us. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, first, thank you, Bertha, for inviting me on the podcast. We've known each other for a few years, and it's wonderful to keep, in one another's lives and keep up to date. And you've always radiated such positive, welcoming, warm energy. And so when you invited me on, I said absolutely. And so a little bit about myself. So I am, um, right, born and raised in Los Angeles. Excuse me, this is my cat. My cat, Bertha. I'm also a cat mom.
He
So
wants to be here, so let him be.
oh, absolutely. Um, so it's born and raised in Los Angeles. My mom migrated from El Salvador in the mid 1980s, as a consequence of the Civil War and the turmoil that was occurring in the country at that time. Um, Migrated. She was a single mom, formerly undocumented, um, raising four children in Los Angeles. And I share that because it really shaped my perspective in terms of justice and equity and equality, um, which inevitably ended up really having an impact on my career path,
Okay.
and really focused on immigrant justice, immigrant worker justice in particular. And so I went to public schools in Los Angeles, graduated from uh, public high school, and really kind of just figured my way into college. I was the first person in my family to go to college. I went to UCLA for undergrad. And it was difficult, just to figure out how to be able to access that university. Interestingly enough, I was familiar with UCLA, only because I used to accompany my uncle who used to do custodial services on campus. So
Oh,
he would sometimes
really?
take us, yeah, he
Oh,
would take us to
wow.
UCLA, and we would play soccer in the sculpture garden at UCLA. And so that was my introduction to the university.
Okay.
And then I also commuted. So my family were, commuters, and we used public transit to
Okay.
commute. So I used to, on the weekends, I used to help my aunt in her work. She used to clean houses, and we actually used to take the same bus line down
Oh,
Sunset Boulevard. And so I used to hop on that bus line, Sunset or Santa Monica, really, Boulevard in Los Angeles. And so we
wow.
used to take the bus to the West Side. And so I
Okay.
was like, okay, so UCLA, I'm familiar with that university just
That
because I
area.
have those
Mhm.
experiences.
Right.
Um, really figured it out as a first gen person, was admitted, was very involved on campus. I really felt like I could contribute as much in the classroom as I could outside of the classroom. So I was involved in a lot of things
That's
while
awesome.
at UCLA. Had, the opportunity to serve as student body president my senior year at
Mhm.
UCLA. And that was an experience in and of itself. I was the first Latina to be elected student body president in
Wow,
UCLA's
look at you.
90-year history. And
That's
that was,
amazing.
oh, thank you. And it was an amazing experience, but it was also a very challenging experience. Again, being a first
Hmm.
generation person, and
Right, right.
um, trying to navigate that as a youth and a young
Mhm.
person, and through that kind of extracurricular involvement, I really kind of realized I wanted to be an advocate. And so I
That's
decided to go
awesome.
to law school, not knowing any lawyers. I
I
was
was
like,
going to
let's
ask
go
you
to,
that. I know we talked about this once, but yeah. So you went into law school. What got you into? Well, as a matter of fact, let's go back a little bit. I would like to touch a little bit about being, as you said, obviously single mom, and you're a twin, right? You have a
yes, I have
twin
a twin. I have
a
a twin
twin
brother.
brother, right? All right. So it's a two of you, three. How many siblings there's in the
There's
family?
four of us.
Four of you.
There's
Okay.
four of us. So
So
I have an
take me
older
back.
brother.
Hmm. Take me back
Older.
when you were little. When you were little, what you got
Oh,
exposed to? What was that like? Because a lot of times I feel like I came here when I was 18, almost 19 years old, so I didn't get to see the experience. And talking to you, one of the things that really struck me when we first started talking about is how do you grow up in that area? I would always be very scared of LA for some reason. Coming in here, I came to Orange County, and everybody would say LA is so huge, and I would always be scared just going to LA. Now you grew up in LA, you got to experience this whole thing. Take me back and tell me what was it like growing up in LA, and like you said, going to public schools, having to find your way around. What was that like?
yeah. I love the city. I really, you know, I I don't know if it was just luck, or I don't know if it was, I feel like me and the city are like made for one another. I really do. The only other place I feel that way about is San Salvador, where I was like, when I went
Okay.
back, I was like, oh my God, there's like an
This is it.
immediate kind of attraction. I was like, I belong here. But I grew up, I grew up in East Hollywood area.
Mhm.
Well, my family first, we moved a lot, but
Okay.
we primarily, I would say, the area that I grew up in is East Hollywood,
Okay.
and we moved a lot, which is actually very interesting. I was thinking about that, just in general. I was like, wow, we moved a lot when I was younger, but we managed to just stay in the same kind of general
Great.
area, and I think
Mhm.
that afforded some sense of stability and familiarity, and just it was an opportunity for me, even though there was a lot of movement in my life in
Mhm.
terms of where we lived. I
Mhm.
was very familiar with kind of the neighborhood I grew up in, and so I share that because I think that was really important to me. It's kind of finding the grounding in my community to feel like I know this place. I know um, I know the establishments, where to eat, like where to hang out, and I was fortunate enough to grow up surrounded by a lot of love in my family.
Okay.
My mom is a fantastic person, a great mother, and I really attribute all of my success, I guess, if you want to call it that, and my grit, really, to her,
Okay.
and she's just fantastic. And so I grew up in a very loving household and very supportive household.
Okay.
I grew up in a single parent household, but so my father was absent, but my older brother's phenomenal, and he really played a very important role in my development and ensuring that we functioned as a unit. And so
Okay.
I can really appreciate that about my family.
That's
Um,
awesome. And
yeah,
I think that's important because a lot of times we talked about how important it is to have a loving environment, to be able to go out and develop and believe in yourself and believe that you can achieve anything you really want to. One of the things I remember my dad used to tell us all the time: make sure that you prepare yourself, make sure you equip yourself, so when you're out there, you don't have to depend on anyone. And he always talk about men, obviously, and going into that, being your mom, a single mom. I'm sure you probably got to see firsthand that she was able to, pull it through and just being that role model for you guys and showing you guys that anything you want is possible. So, do you think that had to do with you wanting to get into later on into law school and being able to advocate? I mean, we're going to tap into that a little more, but you think that had something to do with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so as a first generation person, and my mom, being a formerly undocumented person, monolingual Spanish speaker, um, you know, I had to take on some responsibilities. Folks,
Translating and
like
helping.
translating, interpreting, navigating systems, and it really exposed me to some of the injustices and microaggressions that um, immigrant communities, at least by virtue of having that personal experience with my mom, like I was like, wow, this is not right, and there needs to be a more just process, and there needs to be a way to be able to ensure that everyone has access to resources and has access to a dignified life. And so I when I was at UCLA, I became involved with student government and governance, etc. Um, and I really kind of honed in. I'm like, okay, I really feel like I could be a very good advocate. I really feel like I can really move things forward. And I didn't know any attorneys, but I I kind of, through just knowing people and friends, and discussing with my my inner circle, I
Okay.
kind of got this idea like, oh, I'll go to law school and I'll be an attorney, and they're defenders of people, and they defend people's rights and they advocate on their behalf, and it seems like a good fit.
Okay.
um so that's kind of how I thought, yeah,
Into
I'd pursue a legal career.
What about mentors? Do you had any mentors during either high school or during counselors or anybody that you recall that being, support in terms of, okay, you can do this, you can accomplish that. Yeah, there is a door. You can go in and figure it out, obviously. But yeah, were any type of mentors that you recall that you had either in high school or in college in UCLA?
Yeah, I think you know my biggest mentor just in life has always been my mom. She's my role
Okay.
model. But
Beautiful.
institutionally, I guess,
Mhm.
I did have a group of wonderful high school teachers,
Okay.
that were able to, I think, identify in me like, okay, this student, like, they're really interested in service, or they have an interest in policy, or just history, governance, etc. And so there were certain teachers in high school that I think put put an emphasis on me and my development.
Okay.
I was very fortunate to be in student government, and that's actually how I even started to explore the idea of college. Was we had a teacher for student government, and then all of my peers, or a lot of my peers, right when they were in senior year. I joined when I was a junior. They were considering going to college.
They
I
were
was like,
already
oh,
talking about
I should
college,
do
where
that.
they're gonna be
Yeah,
going. Exactly.
I was
Okay.
like, oh, I should do that. I
Right,
should
right.
definitely do that. And so it was like peer mentoring, and also, you know, um, teachers that were mentors. Um, you know, I will share, there were as many positive and like really affirming people. There were some people that were not, right. Like, so I had an experience with a college counselor that basically discouraged me from applying to
Wow.
certain schools, including UCLA, because I didn't have the metrics, right. I didn't have either the grades or the test scores, etc. I mean, I did it anyway, and I'm happy I
Right,
did,
right,
because
right. But like you
I
said,
got in.
that's important to acknowledge, because a lot of times, how many people get discouraged just because an opinion of one person, saying, oh, you
Right.
shouldn't. Why even bother? You don't have this, you don't have that. That's awesome. And you know what? That you said something also that really got my attention when you say your circle. And I've always talked about, the importance of who do you surround yourself with. And I think, again, talking to you right now and just hearing you say that circle that you had around you really helped you and kept you on the right path.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, going back to kind of even earlier part of the conversation about, growing up in the city and it being such a big place, and, how to navigate that. I mean, I have friends, my best, longest friend, I've known her for 28 years. We met in third
Mhm.
grade, and we were in the English language learner program, and that's how we met,
Okay.
right? It was like a safe space where it's like, oh, well, there's another kid that also speaks Spanish, and we're in this process together, and like really kind of helping build that out. One of my other best, longest friends, we met in middle school, and we all grew up kind of in the same neighborhood,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
so to this very day, like, he and I have been friends for 23 years, right? Like, and like, just like that, I have friends that I've been friends with for 15 years, 10 years. And I really do feel like, there are some people in your life that just have this tremendous impact and are so incredibly valuable,
To keep
to your
to keep
development.
around.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I am who I am. Not outside of a vacuum, right? Like, I didn't just, oh, this is who I am. It's really kind of, a combination, right, of these, experiences and people and lessons that I've learned. And I credit a lot of my circle, right,
There
the
you go.
friends, the chosen family, my family, with really kind of putting into me as much as, either, attention, love, care, and that really shows. I think, right?
Absolutely.
I think it
Absolutely. Well,
does.
thank you. Thank you for sharing that part, because I feel like a lot of times we go through life and we don't take the time to acknowledge that there are times and there are people in your life that made a huge difference of you staying on the right path and not getting yourself distracted or not getting yourself off track. So, education obviously has been a big part of your life, obviously. And I know we met through that other event that I would like to talk a little bit later, that I definitely feel that it's important that we talk about that, because there's so many young women and so many young people out there that sometimes don't know where to go, don't know where to start. And I know you and I share some ideas, and I love the concept of giving back. I love the concept of empowering others to do the best they can, to go out and reach for their dreams and never give up on themselves. Because a lot of times, again, life can get hard sometimes. And I don't know if I've ever been in a position where you feel some days that you're not at your 110%, but you still get up and you still go out and you still do your best, because you know that other people are counting on you. So if you can emphasize some of that. I know you went into immigration, right? That was your
Mhm.
the area that you decided to go in. What was that like, and what was your experience doing that? What were the biggest lessons you've learned working with our community? Is there anything specific that you like to share?
Yeah. I think, being open to, understanding, right? Like, yes, it is, incredible gift to have grown up in the household I grew up, and having had, firsthand experience with, some of the issues, that, immigrant, either families, workers, people, etc., face. But also just, being open to thinking about, okay, this is my experience. What are other people's experiences like,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so I say that because, in my career, I've been able to really kind of enhance my understanding of immigrant communities. Like, oh, you know what? Like, whether it's like the place of origin, or whether it's, the matter in which they came to the United States. Like, there's there's so much to learn, and everybody's, journey and story is unique. And so that's something that I learned. And then also being compassionate, right? Like being compassionate with yourself, but also others, because it's such a deeply personal experience. At least for me it was, right? Like living in a mixed status household, that it can be very taxing. It could be very taxing, right? And so making a conscious choice to say, yes, I'm going to be a instrument for justice, but also understanding, okay, I also need to take care of me. At this time, as much as I want to take care of others, I need to take care of me.
Right. So not allowing those stories or those issues, being absorbing your life as well, right? Because I know in my work I do home loans, right? So there are times that I have a story and I really want to get this done for this person, but they sometimes have to detach myself and say, okay, if it's meant to be, it's gonna work out. If things are gonna work, it's because it's good for them, and not getting attached to it or taking it so personal where you're now feeling that you are so involved that you can be objective when it comes to
Mhm.
seeing things from far. So that's interesting because I feel the same way when I have a situation that I'm like, oh my God, I want to make it happen, but there are times that it's out of my hands and I just have to let be.
Yeah, yeah. I think because I know you, Berta. I think we're similar in like we care very deeply. Care very deeply. For me, I care very deeply about people, about projects, about whatever it is that I'm working on, and understanding. Okay, yeah, I care, and I care very deeply, but I also need to care for myself. And in my journey, just in life generally speaking, I've come to realize just the importance of self-care. I didn't really quite understand that concept. And I think it has to do with kind of the hustle of my life, right? Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna go from this to this stage, from like high school to college to law school, then take the bar, and then get a job, and then become and it's just it's I had like a path that I was on.
You had to
But I
follow, you had to stay
Oh
on
yeah.
this path, right? Had it all
And
planned out.
yeah, and then you're just like, wait, but then life happens, right? Like life happens, and being able to adapt is
Yes.
so important. And um I think part of the ability to adapt is being able to kind of keep a little bit in your tank, right? To say, okay, I'm going to take a step back. What is going to fulfill me, right? Because I'm getting close to empty right now. So I need to
Right,
figure
right,
out ways that I'm going to like refuel myself. And
right.
that took me a while. That took me a while to understand, because I was just so focused on getting
Right.
to the next exit, right? Or like, getting to the next step, where it's like, well, you need, to use the analogy of fuel, you need fuel to get there, right? Like if you don't kind of refuel, reground yourself, center, like put a little bit more effort into taking care of yourself, it's going to be hard to make that journey, right? Like we have a long journey, a long road ahead of us. Um,
Yes.
and it's
And
just like,
thank you for bringing that up because I'm gonna dive into a little more into that because I feel like as a woman, as a mom, a lot of times we're always worrying about everybody else, the projects, the business, like you said, the next thing that's supposed to be done, right? And we get so caught up in that we don't take care of ourselves. And something that I've done, um, surely enough, the last couple of years, I decided that I was gonna take care of me because you can only give from a you can't give from an empty cup, and that's something that I had to learn the hard way too. But it is so important that we take care of ourselves. Without us being good, we can't give anything. And I think
yes.
even health, even in the business and careers, like if we're not at our best, we can't perform at our best. So grounding yourself, going back, like you said, taking a step and said, hey, wait a minute, I need to take care of me before I can take care of that. And
Mhm.
taking that step and really again investing in you, it really helps you get ahead because you're able to do more when you're good. And I remember this one thing that one of my coaches said is when you are at the airport and you're in the plane, they always talk about the oxygen, right? And they always say you have to put it on yourself first. Why is it that a lot of times we always worry so much about everybody else, even their opinions, like, oh, what are they going to think of me? I better keep going this way because da 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 da, we always worry about. And at the end of the day, what it matters the most is how do you feel with yourself? How much are you giving yourself? How much are you loving yourself? You can't expect someone to love you if you don't love yourself.
Hmm.
And
I agree.
expecting someone else to make you happy, it's so wrong because if we can be happy with ourselves, no one is going to make us happy because we're not happy with us. And I just
Oh,
wanted to throw that in there because I feel like if we're just talking about it, I'm like, it has to be said. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for opening that up because it's so true.
no, and I appreciate that. And it took me a while because, like I said, it took me a while. Primary, I was like, I'm on this path, but also it's like, yo puedo, like I can do this. I can carry the load, right? Like I can do this, and kind of that mentality of like, I I will shoulder this. And it's just like, well, yeah, but then there's a breaking point, right? Like I'm not superhuman, right? Like I'm a
Mhm,
human.
mhm,
I'm a
mhm.
human being like anybody else. And it's so funny. I was like, what do I literally asked myself once, like, what is it that I do to relax? Right? Because I think relaxing is so important. It's in those moments where you're able to be the most mindful and some of that clarity comes in. But I literally was like, what do I do to relax? Do I even know how to relax? I'm so busy kind of going here, 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 here.
We're always
And
running, right?
yes, and it took me a while to really figure out, okay, well, this is what I do to unwind. And then
Mhm.
another critical thing that I've learned just in the last, I would say like last few years is the power of boundaries.
Oh,
And it kind of goes hand in hand with this,
yes.
at least for me, right? It's
Mhm,
like
mhm.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go and be a giver and take care of this project or this person or whatever it may be. And it's
Mhm.
almost to a point where it's detrimental to you or to me as a person, right? And
Right.
understanding boundaries and understanding like, no, I can't say no, and
Bingo.
not feel bad about it, right? Or I can say, I don't want to discuss that right now.
Right
Or
now.
just taking a step back. I don't have to be available if I don't want to be. And
Mm.
that took me a while because I was, someone again that was really focused on meeting the needs of others
Of
before even
course.
meeting my own needs. And to your point, I've now come to realize, I was like, I really do need to focus on me being whole, and then being able to give, right? But also setting the terms about what, when, and how I will give. And boundaries, I'm still working on them, like,
I
but
think we all do.
boundaries.
I think we all do. There are times that we kind of, set them up, and then we have to kind of go back again
Yes.
and regroup and say, okay, what am I going to say yes to? One of the things that I've been practicing a lot is learning how to say no, and making sure that when you said yes, you're not saying no to yourself. Like if I'm me saying yes to an activity or to a commitment or to something, is really going and it's aligned with what I want to do, and not just doing it because again they want me to do it, or it's gonna look good if I do it. So no, it's learning how to say yes without saying no to yourself.
I love that. I haven't heard that, but that makes total sense to me, right? Where it's like learning to say yes without saying no to myself. Is that what it is?
Yes, that's what it is.
I think that that's brilliant. And oh man, I love that because there's this, I feel like they're going back to kind of like this hustle and bustle lifestyle,
Right.
right? It's almost like, for me, I was like on autopilot, and it's not to say that I was thoughtlessly engaging in projects, efforts,
Right.
etc.
Right. Right.
But I didn't even question, right, whether like that. I was like, oh, this is the path and I'm just going to take it. But it's like, well, there could be many paths, right?
Right.
Like I'm choosing this path. The power of choice is so important also, where it's like
Very.
I'm choosing this path, right? Like that is such an empowering, um, it's an empowering place to function from, right? The power of choice. It's like, oh, I am choosing to do this. I am choosing to engage with this. I am choosing to give this energy. It's just what is it? You're making life happen, right? Like life is not
Absolutely.
happening to you. And
You're
I
making
love that. I think
wow.
it's such a great um, point of view to say, well, this is my choice, and I can
Yes.
choose not to, and I can choose to do so, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
It's funny. Recently, I was talking to one of my colleagues, and for some reason, the word came out about making it. Well, I said you have a choice, and he was saying more like, well, we have to sacrifice, and we have to do this, and we have to. And I said, no, 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 no. You get to choose. You get to decide if this is something that aligns with me at this particular. Whether it's a business, whether it's a relationship, whether it's you have a choice. Nobody's gonna kill you if you don't do this. Nobody's gonna criticize you. It's up to you and whatever you decide to do. And we were talking about coaching, obviously, but yeah, he said you have to sacrifice. And I said, no, 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 no. You don't have to. You get to choose. You want to do this, and this is gonna happen. You don't do this, this could happen, but it's a choice that you get to make. So don't
Yeah,
ever feel like you have to, because by you having to do something, that means you're not doing it from your heart. You're not doing it because you want to. It's being one of those things that making you do it, not wanting to do it. So I've been practicing something else. Be and then do. Be okay with whatever it is that you're going to do, and then do it from that point. Be and then do.
that's awesome.
Hope it makes sense. Going forward, I know we talked about a little bit about earlier about how we met and the event that we've been a part of a couple of times. I know you're now the president. Can you please talk a little bit about that? I really, really, really love that. My daughter is so happy every time we have gone to those events, and I feel like this is a good place to share with the public and also share with those girls that sometimes, again, they don't know where to turn. They don't know where to go. I feel like you guys have that such an amazing, setup and just empowering women and empowering girls. Like my girl is ready to be an attorney because of the impact of that you guys had during those events that I have been able to take her to. So can you share some of that, please?
Yeah, and shout out to Sophia. I Sophia is such a rock star, and I'm I'm always very happy to be around you and Sophia. So just wanted to shout her out.
Thank
But
you.
um,
So
so
talk about
the event,
that event and what that entitles, and maybe we can. It's typically when in September, right?
yeah,
So maybe we
like
can
Like
plan
October
something
ish.
close to that at that time, and we'll try to bring some girls. I love to be able to
Oh,
put it out
absolutely.
and bring some girls that maybe are thinking about it or just wanting to learn more about it. So
Absolutely. So just, just a quick kind of background. So as you mentioned, I'm the president for the Latina Lawyers Bar Association. We are a nonprofit organization and the only bar association in the country that's focused on meeting the needs of Latinas in the legal profession. We do so by providing scholarships, putting on programming, and really just kind of building a community of support. Latinas currently comprise approximately 2% of all lawyers. And so we have a lot of work
two
to do.
percent girls, come on,
2%.
girls, whoever's out there, 2% only. Oh my God, I did
Yeah.
not realize that.
2%, 2%. And really the goal of the organization is to raise the 2%, right? Where it's um, we have a more equitable representation in the legal profession for folks that are attorneys representing their clients, right? Like, and I say that because I think in my career as an attorney, I really do think having had the lived experiences that I've had um, have made me a better advocate. They've made
Okay.
me better um, equipped to represent my clients, their interests, to provide a perspective on an issue, and build that confidence and trust. And so all of that to say is, it's an organization. We've been around for 26 years. This will be our 26th year. And every year we put together a annual award and
Yes.
scholarship gala.
Mhm.
It's basically a dinner that we put together every year. It's usually around October. And we select a few awardees, and we also highlight our scholarship and bar stipend recipients at the event. We've had, as many as 600 plus attendees join our dinner. That was last year, and thank you, Bertha, for being there. I think for us, the event is really a combination of celebrating our awardees, our scholarship recipients, but also really having a platform to speak about the importance of Latinas in the legal profession, and the work that we still have to do to have
Right.
more adequate representation. And so, I think it's a celebration. It's also a call to action, and it's a place to um, just be together and show our support for um this greater goal of ours.
Right. And that's something that I wanted to emphasize because I do remember the first time I went, I was again not very involved with it, not know much about it, but I was very, very impressed by seeing all these women that were out there speaking, pouring their hearts out on how they did it and what their story was. I remember driving home that night with Sophia, and the stories were just so touching. And a lot of times, again, we don't know until we know, right? You don't know what you don't know, but becoming aware of how much need there is, like there's so much to be done, again, in that area and in so many other areas. But I feel like girls, and again, you and I have to talk about this, but I would love to put something together where maybe we can bring a few girls, high school girls, somebody that is looking to maybe even considering the remote possibility of getting involved in that, profession, and just getting them exposed. Because I feel like once you get exposed, then your eyes open up and say, well, maybe, again, empowering. If they can do it, maybe I can do it too, and just putting that little seed that they could potentially do something bigger, and seeing other doing it. Obviously, it makes you realize that if you did it, maybe I could do it too, right? Those stories, I think, for me were the biggest impact, for me and Sophia the first time we ever attended those events. And how
Well,
do you choose them? How do you choose those recipients? So how do you guys come out about those? So if someone listening to our podcast and it's in school and is thinking about maybe attending, what would they need to do?
totally. So, our scholarship recipients are scholarship and bar stipend recipients. They go through a selection process. We have an open application. You apply to the scholarship. We have a scholarship review committee. That committee then reviews and recommends to the board as a whole who to award the scholarship to. So we have 6 scholarships available and 6 bar stipends available. So the scholarships are for law students that are entering their second or third year in law school.
Okay. Okay.
And the bar stipend are for law school graduates that are going to be sitting for the California bar exam.
Wow. Okay. So you guys are doing both. That is amazing. Okay. Well, again, we need to get more involved, and I'm sure as time gets closer, I'd love to connect with you more and maybe again come up with a plan that we can maybe help and promote it, and also get some girls to attend the event just so they can see what's possible. What is next for Cynthia? What are you working on right now? I know I was reading your bio and I'm like, oh my God, esta chica. It's all over the place. It's all over. You've done such an amazing job and being very involved with our community, giving back and being an example, being a role model. What is next? What are you working on right now?
I I'm at a place where I really am focused on me right now. I know that
Good.
because it's I'm kind of on this kind of a like healing self like rediscovery like fulfillment journey. So as you point out, I've done a number of things, and I've really been involved. I got really involved very young. Like I started kind of doing this kind of advocacy work in my early 20s, right? I'm in my mid 30s now. And I
Okay.
joke when I tell people, I'm like, I've been doing this for like 10 plus years. And I enjoy the work that I do. And really kind of have come out to a point where I realize, okay, well, what is next for me is like really an internal
Beautiful.
journey. Like,
Okay.
okay, I've worked so much to have a positive impact outwardly. Like, I want to kind of show that same intentionality and focus internally.
Beautiful.
And so that's part of it. I mean, I think in terms of, where I see myself in like 5, 10, 15 years, I I really do want to make sure that I am able to continue to have a positive impact, whether that be in policy making or whether that be through, you know, legal representation. I'm open to what that looks like, but I really do feel like having an impact, that is something that's the undercurrent in my kind of career and trajectory. Is I want to make sure that there is an opportunity for folks from every background, and focused on, first generation, like folks, women, etc. The reason why I do what I do in terms of, advocacy, or like being on LBA, for example, is I'm familiar with just all of the obstacles that you have to overcome, and it shouldn't be that hard. You know what I mean? Like, it should not be that hard. And so still being able, to give back in a meaningful way, while at the same time focusing on making sure that I'm doing well and that I'm fulfilled, because I think that's important. I mean, I think that's maybe even the theme of the conversation, right? Like, in
Yes.
order to do good, you have to be good, right?
Be.
And
Be
so,
and then do.
yeah, I really do believe that.
Yeah, that is awesome. You know what? And we didn't even talk about what questions we were going to be asking today. And I love it because we're kind of in the same space. It's so
Mhm.
interesting. I always feel that there are times in life when you just align with the right people. And it's so interesting that you share that with me because, again, I've been on this journey for the last few years and it's amazing. You made a comment earlier. Oh, you look radiant in this. I'm like, I am in a good place. And again,
I love
when you're in a good place, you're able to see more clear and you're able to see things that you probably before you were so caught up in the doing that you were not able to see. So I'm sure new opportunities will be coming your way. I'm sure new things will be showing up for you. And as you're open to receive those things,
it.
you'll be able to take advantage, run with them, and just do obviously better with them because you're in a better place in terms of being okay with who you are, being true to yourself. And again, I can't even imagine, but I know there's so many good things coming your way. And with the heart that you have of just giving and just being that example, I feel honored to have you today. So thank you, thank you. Is there anything you want to share with our younger girls that you feel that it was important that you knew now that you know they should know now? Like there's anything you learned that you could now go back and say, I wish I would have known this when I was younger. Any
Um,
advice, any tips, anything you think will help them?
yeah, I it, I think it's very important, especially if we're talking about young women, young girls, have have true belief in yourself, right? Like, it's so important. I mentioned, a college counselor told me don't apply, and I really had the audacity to do it, right? And say, you know what, I'm gonna do it no matter what. Like,
Right.
okay, you don't think I can get in? That's fine. Like,
Let
I'm
me try.
still gonna do it,
Right. Let me
right?
try it, right?
I'm gonna try. And so, or whether it's, um, you know what, I don't know any attorneys, but I'm gonna do it, right? Like, I'm gonna do it. Like, going for it is it's so critical to making it. You know what I mean? Like, and so don't shut yourself out of opportunities, right? Like, functioning from a place of abundance and belief is so important, because there's a million things that we can tell ourselves to say, it might not be the right time, or this might be the right, occasion, etc. And it's like, okay, that might be true, but if you believe and you want to pursue, an opportunity, go for it. Just go for it.
Beautiful. And go for it.
I really
And
do
don't
believe in
hold
that.
back. Don't hold back because a lot of
Yeah,
times
don't go back.
we tell ourselves stories and we get into this thing like maybe, but what if this? What if that? Don't listen to that monkey that is always making you doubt of yourself, and just go for it, whatever it is that you want accomplished in life. And I have a saying. I rather prefiero arrepentirme de lo que hice y no de lo que no hice. I don't even know how to say
Yes.
that in English, but can you translate it? I rather again prefiero arrepentirme de algo que hice de lo que no hice, porque al final del día, lo que intenté, at least I tried. Pero esas cosas
Yeah.
que nunca hiciste because you were so scared, because you had all these ideas, you never know. Nunca
Yeah.
pudiste saber si
No.
pudiste o no.
I think you just going for it, just go for it. Like I really do think there needs to be an emphasis on being your own champion, right? Like, and just saying, you know what, let's go for it. Like, let's go for it and see what happens. Like,
There you go.
and then also, being mindful of, okay, you went for it. Maybe it wasn't the outcome that you were hoping,
One,
but
yes,
that experience in it of itself will prepare you for the next experience. Like, I think that's something that I I I knew to a point, but I've really now in my adult life, I've been like, oh, okay, right? Like, that was the lesson.
right,
Okay, that was the lesson. All right, like, cool. Like, it's so powerful. So just going for it, even if it's not the outcome that, excuse me, you
you were
had
hoping for.
expected or hoped,
Hmm.
there's a lesson there. Like, oh, I think being able to appreciate that now in life is, it's so great, where it's like, oh, I see. I see now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've been practicing gratefulness. So I'll share with you one of the things I did a year and a half ago. I went into this thing where I said, what if every morning you were able to get up and write up 21 things you're grateful for? And
Mm,
I've been doing it for the last year and a half. And I'll tell you something, it's an amazing feeling to just write down the things you're grateful for. And sometimes it's even those experiences that didn't come out the way you wanted to, but there was a lesson, and being able to appreciate that. Yeah, it didn't come out what I wanted out of it, but there is something that I learned from it. And now I'm able to be on a better place because I went through that experience, and I'm grateful for it. Acknowledging that, there was something there for me to learn. I'm good now. I can move on to the next thing. But yeah, I've been
yes.
practicing that. I'll share that with you. 21 things. If you can start every morning writing 21 things you're grateful for, your day will be just at a different level, at a different space. You just feel so much better acknowledging the things you do have rather than those you don't have. Because most people, unfortunately, always concentrate on, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough this, I don't have enough of that. I'm always thinking what I want to have rather than, hey, I have health, I have life, I have family, I have a car, I have a house. And you start naming things, and it's so beautiful the way you feel.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate that. I might actually take that tip and start doing it. Guys, that sounds
Ooh,
like a wonderful way to start your day.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, Cynthia, thank you again for being on the podcast. Level up, meaning we learn something and we try to move up with it, and take those experiences with us. Will make us a better person. Will make us a better humans. I can't wait to see what else you do. I know there's so much coming. Super excited to see you continue to succeed on that arena that you're in. And thank you for being an inspiration to my daughter and to a lot of other girls that I know look up to you. So keep doing that work. I know it's very fulfilling, and I know you're doing an amazing job. Just being the president, I was like, oh my gosh, she's the president. What an amazing accomplishment. So thank you. Wishing you the best. And again, we'll keep in touch. And again, we're gonna put something together for the next event. Again,
Absolutely.
I'm going to commit to maybe take 5 girls that are interested on learning about this, so they can see the opportunity and the potential that there is out there. So
Well, thank you, Berta, for having me and for putting your vote of confidence in me, my trajectory, my path, and I really do feel similarly about, like, just people in your life and being aligned and being in your life for a reason, and enriching really your experience on this earth. And I said at the beginning, you are just radiating so much positivity, and I'm like, yes, this is the kind of energy we need. Like positivity, moving forward, and just I was like, oh, this is so great. So it's been a wonderful experience to be on the podcast, and I'm so grateful for the invitation. It was
Oh,
really
thank you. Thank you. We're wishing you the best. We'll see you guys soon. Subscribe, comment, share it. We wanna impact more people's lives. So here we are. Thank you, Cynthia.
thank you.
Have an amazing day.
Thank you for listening to the Level Up Podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere else podcasts are found, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, you can leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. Until next time, we hope you level up.